And that game we lost just now, it was really tough, like struggling with that. But at the same time, I'm really not, considering that Tobias and Joel Embiid had their first games back. With that being said, now Tobias, he just exemplifies to everybody, including all Sixers fans, why he's not an All Star. It's not, it has nothing to do with this game either. If you watch him over his career with the Sixers, something is missing. Um, has nothing to do with his actual talent or skill. More so, the mental factor. Very rarely do you ever see him show up in the clutch. I mean, I can only think of one time where he ever really won us a game, and that was a game against the Lakers last year in the fourth quarter when he hit like a clutch fadeaway shot to give us that lead to win the game. But really and truly, when you think about Tobias Harris and his career since he's been here, he's just been a good player. He talks about making the All Star game. I just don't see it. Like, he has all of the tools, but I've always thought, perfect example, right? When I look at Tobias Harris, I think of a guy, when you look at his game, just his game, when you're comparing his game and all of the things that Tobias can do, there's no reason that he shouldn't be better than Chris Middleton. But guess what? He's not. And I think the only thing that you can pick out in terms of a difference is mindset. Like, I've always thought Tobias was better than Chris Middleton, and therefore he would make the All Star game before Chris Middleton. But it hasn't turned out that way, and the only reason that it hasn't turned out that way is because it's just mindset. Chris Middleton and Giannis, you have those two guys, in Giannis and Chris Middleton, I should say, excuse me, um, that can dominate the game on their team at any given course of the game. We already know what Giannis Antetokounmpo represents, but Chris Middleton, we've seen now. We've seen last year and the year before what he's capable of doing. He can put the team on his shoulders and be that primary player for the team. As we've seen, Giannis has had his games in the playoffs where he plays lesser than, and in those situations, Chris Middleton takes over. And he does a damn good job at it, if you don't mind asking me. I think he does a really good job. He has a 3 point game, a mid range game. He can drive hard to the basket. He's physical, being 6'8". He can shoot over guys. When you look at Tobias, he has a better. He has if you were to ask me, I think he has a better physique. I'm sure if you ask folks around, they would tell you he has a better physique than Chris Middleton, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. The thing about Tobias is that he can get to basket easy with his strength. He's a mismatch at his position since he plays the power forward position. He really is a mismatch um, to any player that's really guarding him. Because if you think about it, if you have a guy that's a regular average power forward that in size, they're not going to have the speed, right? So Tobias would be more mobile and quicker than the guy that's guarding him. And in the case when you have a small, when teams go small, or not even when they go small, but like say if you don't have a traditional big man power forward and you have like a Jay Crowder playing power forward, Tobias is bigger than those guys, so he can always be more physical than them and shoot over the top. Dude has a post game. He can drive hard to the basket, both hands. He just incorporated the Euro step in his game last year, you know. And supposedly in this offseason, he was supposed to be able to shoot contested shots, because that's the one thing when you watch him over the years, that's the one thing he's missing. I feel like a lot of these star players, if you're considered a star, you have to be able to hit, some degree of difficulty shots. And Tobias is not known for being able to do that. So that's something that I will be looking at this year when I watch him is how many contested shots he makes over the course of the season. But again, he's just a disappointment, you know? Like, you look at a guy like Jimmy Butler, again, another example. Tobias, if you're looking at skill set, there's not a lot of players that I would say is better than Tobias because he can do so much. But at the same time, with all of the stuff that he can do, he should easily be averaging more than 22 points or whatever it is that he's averaging. I feel like he's never broke 23, 24 in a season. He's supposed to be getting better every year, but I feel like his best season scoring wise was still on the Clippers. I mean, you're playing with a talented big man in Joel Embiid. You know, this is the one opportunity. I feel like when you had Ben Simmons, I'd give him an excuse because I'd give every player on our team with Ben Simmons an excuse in terms of their scoring numbers because everything is just congested and you can just tell obviously everybody's scoring can go down just because of how congested the paint is. It's no longer that issue, which is why you're seeing so many players on our team have success because they can either drive perfect example is Tyrese Maxey. You know, if Ben Simmons if Ben Simmons would be Tyrese Maxey or would have been anything like Tyrese Maxey, this is what Ben Simmons would have been able to do in an open court because of what Joel Embiid can do. Um, Again, Tobias, he needs to have a mindset that he's missing. You're a guy that's getting paid $180 million. Um, it's not like he's Ben Simmons and he's robbing us of money that we're paying him. He's not going to do that. So I'm never going to disrespect him in that way. But at the same time, I feel like he needs to do more. And I don't think that this is, how should I say, a corrupt league or anything like that in terms of him not being in the All Star game last year. He truly did not deserve to be there. You know, um, Chris Middleton, even for those who probably didn't think that he deserved to be in that All Star game, he validated why he was an All Star game, why he was an All Star this year, last year in the playoffs, I should say. So, Tobias, if you ever see this video, I love you. I respect you as a player, and if anything, maybe it's on me for thinking that you're better than what you are, but I think you still haven't hit your ceiling as a player because you can do so much. If it's anything that you're lacking and that you can get better at because of how you play as a player, you don't play like a traditional power forward. So because of that, I'd probably say improve your ball handling skills. You know, with your ball handling skills, if you had improved ball handling skills, I feel like you would be able to create separation. Although your game doesn't necessarily need it, maybe that's what you need to feel comfortable when it comes to taking certain shots and being aggressive. I mean, for crying out loud, like we have a guy in Tyrese Maxey. The way that this is going, I could see Tyrese Maxey making an all-star game before you. Just for the simple fact that he's aggressive, he's in constant attack mode, and he doesn't think about Joel Embiid being on the floor. You know, if you're a great player, you be great. Joel Embiid shouldn't stop you from being great. It damn sure hasn't stopped Tyrese Maxey, although Joel Embiid has been missing time. You know, right now, as it were to play out, I would say Joel Embiid is clearly your number one, and Tyrese Maxey is your number two. Tyrese Maxey right now looks like a better player than Tobias Harris, and therefore, like if Tyrese Maxey keeps trending this way, because he's damn near scored 30 points in like what 9 of the 12 games that the Sixers have played already this season, or how many games that it's been. If he continues to play this way, he will be an all-star. With that being said, the Sixers have to have a good record because I don't think he'll be an all-star if we don't have a good record. And Joel Embiid has already missed so many games. So we have a couple of games to win before we even think about that. But again, Tobias Harris, man, please. It's all about mindset. You are an all-star game. You are an all-star in theory, but if you really want to be an all-star to where it's no question, do what I'm saying. Do what I'm saying, and I promise you will be an all-star. Um, Let me just touch on this whole Ben Simmons drama and issue. If this dude really is broke, um, you know, good for you. That's what I would say. Don't really care too much for Ben Simmons. He's literally one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen in all of my life. And to all of you Ben Simmons supporters and defenders out there, you guys are clowns. He's not good whatsoever. All I ever do when I go and I look at the media and hear what people have to say about him, when it comes to certain basketball players that used to play, they try to defend him and bring this positive light on him, shine this positive light on him when there's nothing positive to shine. You know, the dude came from a father that, I don't want to say negative things about the father, because Ben Simmons, I just want to look at him as an anomaly, but he can't play. Like, truthfully, this dude is not good. He's not good at anything. I'm talking about just specifically basketball. Like, even if you wanted to say he's 6'10" and he's a big freak of nature and he can just drive downhill, it's not that simple. Like, if you have played basketball, then you would know when you watch Ben Simmons, nothing comes natural. Nothing is fluid with Ben Simmons. So even if you're a guy saying, Ben Simmons, just drive relentlessly to the basketball, he wouldn't be able to do that with success. Like, well, he would, but it wouldn't just be, he'd still have his issues, because if he's not dunking the ball, which is something that I constantly scream at him and tell him to dunk the ball if he's driving to the basket, he's not guaranteed to score the basket, you know? Being 6'10", you shouldn't be doing anything other than dunking, but if you want to lay up the ball, that's not a problem, but the problem is that he looks like Ben Simmons sometimes looks like a guy playing basketball for the first time. So regardless of what you think of a layup and how easy it is, it's not that easy for somebody that hasn't done it in their life, right? So let's say if I just pick up somebody off the street that hasn't shot a basketball in their life and just tell them, just make this layup really quick, running at 20, 30 miles per hour, or however fast these guys are running on the court, they wouldn't make it. And so with Ben Simmons, I'm sure you've seen, especially as a Sixers fan, the 4 or 5 years that you've been watching, he'd have some easy layups, and they're not guaranteed with him. And then you have to also take into the consideration that he's not great at shooting free throws. He's terrible at shooting free throws as a point guard. So what successful offense can you really sustain with him running it? Do you understand? He can't shoot free throws. He doesn't shoot the ball at all. That's what I'm saying. Nothing that he does on the offensive end is guaranteed. Just think about that really quick. If I'm 6'10", you saw it in the playoffs. Perfect example was you seeing it in the playoffs. He didn't dunk the ball, and that's what I'm saying. If he doesn't have a guaranteed dunk, it's not a guarantee for him to score the basket. Everything that he does, his assists are overrated. If you really think about it, the only thing that I give him credit for that is actually something of value is his transition threes, right? Clearly, as being 6'10", running down like that, you are going to bring guys towards you, you know what I mean? Just because. So people are going to shade towards you, and it's going to cluster the paint. But even with that, so that's what I'm saying. So that's what I do give him value, because he'll kick out, you get a three. We've seen the LeBron James thing. That's the same thing LeBron James used to do a lot of back then. He doesn't really do it anymore now that he's shooting threes, because he's aged and he's trying to save his legs for the playoffs. But Ben Simmons, he has no off-court, half-court offense. I can't stand what this man does in the half-court. When you see him, if he's in the post, he'll pretend like he's going to, play one-on-one in the post, and then he just passes it off. And I just think to myself, why are you passing the ball? Like, You weren't even drawing a double team. Just think about that for a second. So it's like the people that are at the 3 point line waiting for the ball, they're not necessarily waiting for the ball because they're being guarded. Nobody is leaving their man to double team Ben Simmons. Just think about that. Why would you even double team Ben Simmons anyway? It's not like he proved to anybody that he can score in the post individually, right? So that's what I'm saying. The whole point of the post is for you to show, right? Like Joel Embiid, he showed that he's the dominant player in the post. Like a guy like Drummond, perfect example, right? He's not a dominant player in the post, right? But like matchups. Because Drummond is who he is and he's as big as he is, there's not a lot of centers that can contend with him in the paint, right? So he's bigger than most people. You know, even if there are some guys that are taller than him, they're not as big as him. So he can push a lot of people down in the paint, pin them right underneath the basket. So although he's not a guy that can score a lot, if he's ever in that position, you're going to clearly double. Ben Simmons is not a guy where you're afraid of him doing that, because even if he could get underneath the basket, he has no scoring touch. He doesn't have scorer's touch. He hasn't been playing this game long enough, you know? He's been literally just living off of his athleticism. That's what got him drafted. So, you know, again, he doesn't really give you anything in the half court. He'll literally be in the post, pass the ball out, you know? Like, he'll dribble 2-3 times and then pass it out as if he's facilitating, when really and truly there's nothing there. He's just passing the ball out to a guard to take a difficult shot because he doesn't want to shoot the ball out of the post. You know, the whole thing about it is that if you're aggressive now and you get a couple shots in the post, and now you're putting pressure on the defense to then put a double team out on you or send a dig out from one of the corners from the weak side. They don't do none of that because they don't have to worry about Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons just compacts the issue by doing what they want him to do. So ultimately, I've always wanted to get rid of Ben Simmons. The city and now nationally the world are finally on this bandwagon. But what I will say is his stock has already went down. So if we can get anybody for this man, anybody, I would hope that we get D'Angelo Russell. I've been saying this for weeks. I'm not just saying this tonight just because we lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in double OT. That's not why. It has nothing to do with it. I've been on D'Angelo Russell, and nights like this is an exact reason why I've been saying I like D'Angelo Russell. We could use him on our team. I love Tyrese Maxey. I really do. So I don't even know if I 100% really want the Sixers to pull the trigger on this because of how much I love Tyrese Maxey. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where we might have to shift Tyrese Maxey to the 2 guard position, although Seth is usually our starter, and Seth might have to come off the bench. But Tyrese Maxey, here's the thing. To everybody, I know if you guys are all looking at me stupid, like, what are you saying? Just understand that Tyrese Maxey, he's not a point guard. That's not what he is. He's not naturally a point guard. With that being said, he's an NBA, and him being young, maybe we can transition him to being a point guard. But I don't know if that's what the Sixers ultimately plan on doing with him in the long term. I don't know if that's really the best thing for him, you know? He'd have to garner a whole lot more of experience before he can ever really think of being a point guard. Even now, although he doesn't turn over the ball, he's not that good at being a point guard, you know? He's just, because he's not turning over the ball, all that you're seeing right now is him not making those passes that he's comfortable making, which is why he doesn't turn over the ball. He only does what he's comfortable with doing. But with that being said, when you have a guy like Joel Embiid and in the clutch, when all you got to do is make a simple pass to him off the pick and roll, and you can't make it, it kind of exposes why, you know, like in the playoffs when we have this same issue, we pivotal. That was a pivotal turnover. We could have simply won that game if Tyrese Maxey doesn't turn over the ball. But I'm not blaming him for it because he's only in his second year, and we're asking him to play a position that he has no business playing. With that being said, if we're trying to be serious championship contenders this year, we need to seriously consider trading for D'Angelo Russell if we can get him, because he's just that good. He really is. I'm talking about, yeah, he's primarily a scoring point guard, but he can pass. You know, he can pass. If you don't know that, then just do your research. That's all I'll say. You know, playing on the Nets, playing on that team that damn near almost, well, they didn't almost beat our team, but they gave us a fight with all of those young players that they had on the team 2, 3 years ago. D'Angelo Russell, he did make an all-star team, and deservingly so. And now he's playing like an all-star again since he came back from injury with Ant Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. If you know, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo are best friends, so I don't know the percentages of us getting that or landing him in a trade like that, but if we can, that would be the trade to make. I believe with that trade, we'd be championship contenders. Joel Embiid wouldn't have to do all the work, and then when Joel Embiid gets hurt, we finally don't have to rely on Tobias Harris anymore if he's not ready to live up to that, being a true all-star, which he still has yet to accomplish. But at least D'Angelo Russell, he has the mindset that I'm looking for. So even when, you know, our big man is down, D'Angelo Russell will feel like he's the best player on the court and will play like it. You know, he has no problem doing that. No problem at all. He can pass. He's a 3-level scorer. There's really not anything that he can't do on the offensive end. And I think maybe his defense might be underrated. I mean, Jesus, you saw what he just did. He won the game for them offensively, and he won it for him on the defensive end when he got that steal on Tyrese Maxey. So that's just me. You guys let me know what you think.